Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special Reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I bring on a guest that I had on in the past because I like him so much I had to bring him back on. Wanted some more from him. So today's guest is Allison Levine, who is owner over at Please the Palate and host of the Wine Soundtrack podcast. So Allison, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Adam. It's good to be back.
So I'm excited to get into what you're doing over at Please the Palate and also over at the Wine Soundtrack podcast. Let's just, I don't want to assume that all our new listeners heard your original episode, so let's just start with what you're doing over at Please the Palate. So tell us a little bit more about the business, please.
Sure. Please the Palate is a small boutique agency. Generally, it's me, and I work with a lot of people, that I outreach to, but it's generally me, and I work with wine regions, and I organize wine events for the industry. That's the primary thing I do, but I'm also a freelance writer, and that's where the name Please the Palate kind of came up, where I share different tastes from food to travel to wine, cocktails, and write about it, and blog about it, and then write for a number of outlets.
Oh my gosh, can we talk about your Instagram for a moment? I was telling you in the opening of the show notes, I'm like, every time you come up with my feed, I'm like either thirsty or hungry or something that looks tasty. I mean, Please the Palate is an understatement. So, and these events you do, I mean, they're amazing. So let's talk about what you have going in 2020, because I know what's going to happen on my feed.
Well, I kind of juggle the different things. So I'm working on some events where I work with the Delm region, which is a region in Portugal. So we're going to be doing some events on the East Coast coming up in the first quarter. In Los Angeles, where I'm based, I'm working on a fun project called Cava Discovery Week, where a number of restaurants will participate promoting Cava for a week, different promotions that they might offer. So that's in its beginning stages, but that'll be announced soon, who's participating and what they're doing. So working on the event side and then working with some others, promoting events, organize events. I can't even keep up. And then writing. So I've been having a lot of great experiences, meeting so many great winemakers and just writing up the experiences and stories. So I have a weekly column in the Napa Valley Register, so that keeps me busy. And then my blog at Please the Palate, and then other story, assignments come to me and throw me down another path. So it's just keeping me busy.
I have no idea how you keep up. I have no idea. Let's switch it up. I do want to get into your podcast. So for those that haven't heard of it yet, so Wine Soundtrack. So tell us a little bit more about it, please.
Well, Wine Soundtrack originally launched to Italy in 2017, and then at the very end of 2018, Claudio Lataglia, who's the founder, asked me to launch it in the U.S. And so it's a really fun podcast. It's getting to know winemakers and winery owners in approximately 30 questions. The questions range from some general information about their wineries and them, and then more personal questions about them as wine drinkers and as human beings, what they do in their free time. There's some fun, silly questions and some thought-provoking questions. And it's just a really great way to get to know the people who make the products that we love to drink. And also, a lot of times what makes us love a wine that we drink is the company that we're drinking with, or the people that we meet that make it. And it gives a connection to it. So hopefully people get to know these winemakers who are all fascinating in their own right. Some of them very funny, some of them just so intellectual, they just kept talking, and I can't stop them because I enjoy it so much.
That's amazing. Can you give us a flavor? You don't have to use any specifics, but a flavor of an example of one of the stories that sticks out to you from the podcast, so that because I know the work you're doing, but I definitely want my audience to go over there and check it out. So to give them just a little hint or flavor, pun intended.
Well, I mean, questions that I ask are basically the same for each of the winemakers. It's just how they answer them that's so fascinating. So, for example, I had recently, for the new year, written a column actually based out of this, where one of the questions I ask the winemakers is, can you tell me, like, what's one piece of advice that you've sort of carried with you, like that someone gave you over time or that really plays a role in your life? And, and it just inspired me because I got everything. Some people gave me things that their parents said or that mentors said. Some people said things where it was advice about making wine. So, everyone had a very different way to interpret it. And I just went through all the interviews I've done. I've done over 100 interviews now. And wow. I went through a bunch just pulling out some of my favorite quotes. And I have a couple here if you want me to share.
I was going to ask. I absolutely want you to share.
Yeah, so, these are winemakers from all over the United States. And so let's see here. I had Brent Stone from King Estate in Willamette Valley. He was taught to take a team approach in work and learned a philosophy that when you're working for someone else, it's always good to give credit of success to others. But when you're in charge, if something goes wrong, you take full responsibility. Let's see, some good quotes. There are so many. Ryan Hodges of Fell Wines in Anderson Valley remembered a quote that his mom had posted on a wall when he was growing up that said, "The only constant is change." Wow. Jeff Pizzoni of Pizzoni Family Wines in the Santa Lucia Highlands had something that his father had wrote inside a book. His father had written this inside a book cover that he had given to his son that said, "The best winemakers are the most prepared and interfere the least." So that was more winemaking, advice.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like, I love it. And that's why I needed you to give us like some actual from the podcast, because I know the great work you're doing. So, I love promoting podcasters, but I know the additional you put in. You could tell that, those responses, it's very personal. So, especially for the winemakers, the craft and what draws them to it. And I think it's interesting, especially with some of the family lineages, that you without doubt, I'm guessing they go through, you can just tell based off of their answer to that question. A quote from a book, a quote that their mother had hung up. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah, there's just so many great things. A lot of them are inspirational thoughts that they want to pass on to other people as well. Erica Stancliffe from Trombetta Family Wines had said that she gave me two pieces. She said, first, you should learn from the best so that you can be the best, but then you must find your own path. And then she said, second, you have to be the hardest worker and outwork everyone else. And she is one of the hardest working young winemakers out there, and she is living the advice that she's been given. So, it's great to know what they're inspired by, and it puts a lot of thought into, what inspires all of us every day. Especially
what goes into the bottle. Like, that's amazing. Like, to hear these stories and to be able to warm up to the brand and what they're doing, and that's just an amazing thing. I love it. So, Allison, I know you have quite a few different outlets, so let's start going through some of them. So, if somebody's listening to this, they want to read or listen to you or learn more about Please the Palate, what are some of the best ways for them to reach out and to connect with your content?
Well, I make it really easy because it's a one-stop shop. You can come to pleasethepalate.com. From there, you can look under writing and see all the outlets and articles that I've written in different topics. You can go to the blog, which has you can look everything up there too. For Instagram, you go to PLS the Palate. That's more images of what's being eaten and drank. And
buyer beware on that one. Buyer beware. I'm just saying. I followed it, and it was it's a love-hate relationship.
And there are chefs and winemakers and stuff. And then on Twitter, PLS the Palate. And then there's a Facebook page, Please the Palate. So you can find. I share all my articles on Twitter and Facebook. There's also some fun wine videos I do with the Wine Weirdos, so little 1-minute wine reviews that you can find as well on Instagram or any of those outlets.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Allison, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about what you're doing over there at Please the Palate to educate and spread the stories, and also Wine Soundtrack, the Wine Soundtrack podcast. Everyone listening to this, if you have any interest in wine or entrepreneurship, as you can see, head on over to Wine Soundtrack and give it a listen and give it a subscribe. And to the audience, as always, thank you for, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Adam, I was going to say also Wine Soundtrack has apps for both Droids and iPhones. It's on all the various outlets, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud. But if you go to the winesoundtrack.com website, you can search by country. There's the U.S. They also have it in Italian and Italy, Brazil, South Africa, and an international category, which is also in English. And you can read about the winery, see photos, and listen to the podcast.
Oh, amazing. So definitely download the app, even better. Even easier. Love it. Perfect. Well, hey, again, Allison, appreciate you coming on, and thanks again. I look forward to catching up for maybe we will do Reunion 2021. I'm in. I want to hear what's coming on next. So thanks again.
Well, thank you.